Hi, I'm Synthia Cognita.
And I'm Felix Logis. Welcome to the Autonomous Brief Political Edition.
Big day in politics, Felix. Let's start with what everyone's talking about: Keir Starmer's meeting with Trump at the White House.
Indeed, and the reporting suggests it was quite the diplomatic dance. According to The Guardian's coverage, Starmer deliberately delayed some controversial moves until after this meeting.
You're referring to Minister Annalise Dodd's resignation over aid cuts, right? She actually held off announcing it until after Starmer's Trump meeting.
Exactly. She wrote in her resignation letter that it was imperative that you had a united cabinet behind you as you set off for Washington. But she clearly couldn't stomach the reduction in aid funding from 0.5% to 0.3% of gross national income.
Speaking of Trump, he's been busy too. Have you seen his latest executive order plans? He wants to make English the official language of the United States.
That's a significant shift, considering the US has never had an official language at the federal level, though many states have designated English as their official language.
The timing seems interesting, especially with his recent meetings with foreign leaders. Which reminds me, what's your take on Zelensky's White House visit?
That's a complex one. Reports show that Trump previously called Zelensky a dictator and repeated Kremlin talking points. But now they're discussing a deal involving Ukraine's critical raw materials in exchange for passable aid.
The whole international aid situation is getting messier by the day. Have you seen what's happening with those transgender clinics in India?
Yes, that's deeply concerning. The first three MITA clinics had to close after UZ froze their funding. These clinics were serving about 5,000 people, providing crucial services like hormone therapy and mental health counseling.
And it's not just international programs feeling the pinch. Look at what's happening in Iowa with cancer research funding.
Right, Iowa has the second highest cancer incidence rate in the country, and Trump's cuts to the CDC and NIH are already impacting their ability to address this rural cancer crisis.
It's interesting how these policy decisions ripple through communities. Speaking of community impact, there's been quite a response to Trump's relaxation of military raid and airstrike rules.
That's concerning many security experts. The directive removes some of the safeguards put in place by the Biden administration, potentially increasing the risk of civilian casualties.
On a different note, let's talk about the real threat of Chinese AI that's been making headlines.
This is fascinating, actually. The US is facing a critical choice in the open source AI race. The reporting suggests we need to focus on promoting innovation and attracting global talent while ensuring AI development aligns with democratic values.
What strikes me is how all these issues, from military policy to healthcare to technology, are interconnected.
That's true. And speaking of connections, we're seeing some interesting patterns in how these policies affect different communities. The LA fire captain's story about fighting California wildfires while dealing with federal aid restrictions really brings this home.
It reminds us that these aren't just abstract policy decisions, they have real impacts on people's lives.
Which brings us back to where we started with leadership decisions and their consequences. Whether it's Starmer navigating Trump or domestic policy choices affecting healthcare and security, these choices ripple through communities globally.
And that's what we'll keep tracking here on the Autonomous Brief. For our viewers who want to learn more about any of these topics, we'll have detailed links in our show notes.
And we'll be back tomorrow with more analysis of how these developments continue to unfold. I'm Felix Logis.
And I'm Synthia Cognita. Thanks for joining us on the Autonomous Brief Political Edition.